All right, I am recording. Welcome to day 26 of the AWD1000 Web Development Technologies class at Rankin Technical College. As was said on the email that I sent you today, we're going to continue our study of Bootstrap 5. We'll build another site, probably two of them. And as it says, you may want to follow along because I'm not putting these in GitHub repositories. What I want to do before we get started is I want to go over the two attached Bootstrap 5 hands-on tests. You will have Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to work on these, and the weekend as you need to, but they will be due on Sunday by midnight along with your other work. Then next week on Monday, all right, which is the 9th, I believe, we will go over Hot 3, all right? And you should have already gotten a grade for Hot 3. A couple people I had problems with, so you may not have gotten a grade yet, but virtually everybody else should have. So we're going to do that. All right, so I will expect, and I don't think there's anybody who hasn't turned in Hot 3, but if you haven't, if I go over it in class, you can't get any points anymore. That's just the way that it is. All right, then we're going to begin our study of JavaScript by moving over to the other book. And then for the rest of the semester, we will be working on JavaScript. All right. So your chapter 11 through 19 written tests. So that's 8 written tests, and your Halloween store examples. And that's just 10 through 14. All right. Those are due by Sunday, along with these two Bootstrap hands-on tests. So let's take a quick look at those. All right. And I'll do them in order, I guess. So the first one is create a small 3-page website for a fictional business. I'm not going to read everything that's in here. All right, that'd be silly, but follow the steps. So you'll have a home page that'll have the information that you see on here. All right, so it'll look something like this. Now, when we say that, you've got company name here, etc. That could be, you can set this up any way you like. This whole big thing, for example, could be in a Jumbotron. All right. And, this, just some paragraphs. Then you're going to have a product page. So this is for some kind of product. It can be real. It can be mythical. That's totally up to you. All right. You'll see that on this page, all right, they do want you to put in a Jumbotron, and they want you to put in some images. All right. This, to me, comes out perfectly to set it up as cards, which we've talked about before. Finally, you'll have a team page, which again, could very well be set up with cards. So please read the instructions on each one of these, okay? If you have questions after you read them, then ask. Totally fine, all right? If you're asked to use a Jumbotron, it's expected you're going to use a Jumbotron. All right. Now, what if you, for example, what if you were asked to use a Jumbotron and you're like, this makes no sense. I really don't want to use a Jumbotron. Well, these are your requirements. One thing you can do is you can use a Jumbotron and you can make the background color the same color as the rest of the background. And you wouldn't even know it's a Jumbotron, for example. But you are expected to go over and map and match these requirements. And I'm not trying to sound funny or anything here, but I've had this happen before where somebody doesn't do something and I'll say, why didn't you do that? Well, I didn't like it. But what could happen is if you decide, as an example, if you decide that you're going to hang out your own shingle and you're going to try to have your own business where you consult for other people, all right, then there are going to be times when people ask you to do things and you're going to probably think to yourself, that's pretty stupid, but you're going to do it anyway because that's what they've asked for. I've told this, and I'll make it quick. I've told this story before. This is an honest to God true story. I taught for 3 years, and then I went in and I worked for an aerospace company for a year. When I started working for that aerospace company, they asked me to do a project on the first day. I said, well, what do you want me to do? And they told me, and I said, well, what language do you want me to do it in? And they said, what languages do you know? And I gave them a list. There were probably a half dozen. And they said, we support all of those. All right. Whatever, whichever one you want. And I said, fine. So I came back with them to them the next day and I said, I'd like to do it like this. They were like, that's good. No problem. And then the guy who ran the department for what I was supposed to do, he came up and talked to me one-on-one. And he said, I'm going to be doing some of the work with this too. So this is what I'd like. He told me two of the dumbest requirements I'd ever heard. First was he wanted the background color to be about the most putrid shade of purple you could imagine. And second, when you removed records, all right. So, if somebody, you had a customer and the customer decided they didn't want to work with a company anymore, he literally wanted the funeral march played. All right. When you remove somebody, so dum dum da dum dum da dum da dum da dum, and I even told him at the time, I said, if are you the only one working with this? And he said, no, I've got a whole department. I said, they're not going to like the background color. They're not going to like the fact that you're having this music thing. Because I don't care. I'm in charge. Okay, I gave it to him. And honest to goodness, 3 days later, he was over at my desk and I said, what's the problem? And he goes, you got to make this background color a different color and you got to get rid of this music. And I knew what was going to happen. All right. But again, I did what was asked because those were my requirements. And I'm asking you to do the same thing. So you will create a 3-page website for a fictional business. All right. All right. And then for the other one that you're supposed to be working on, this is pretty small when you look at this. Okay. Create a website about your favorite food or snack. The actual content is not as important as the functionality that's below. All right. Content can be placeholder text or images. Use images, just get a picture of something. You can complete the requirements as a single page, or you can use multiple pages. I would recommend for this one, you use a single page. All right. Like I did for you yesterday, and I'm going to give you another example a little bit later. Now, if you want to do that, great. And if you don't want to do that, that's your call. All right. If you decide, no, I'd rather do this, I'd rather do both of these as multiple page websites, then you're going to do that. I wouldn't take off for that. It will be expected that if you're going to have multiple page websites, that each page works and you're able to iterate between pages. All right. But again, when you look in here, all right, use the grid system to create a row with 5 columns on large and up. For medium screens, 2 rows. For small screens, stack them, 1 each. All right. Now, some of the stuff we haven't really dealt with in here. The Bootstrap accordion. You know what? You can literally grab the example. So you can go out to getbootstrap.com. I believe it's under components. I honestly don't remember. But there's the accordion right there. How does it work? They explain it right here. And here is an example. That's it. So literally you can bring in this code. Of course, you'd want to change the content. All right. And you wouldn't want it to say accordion item. You maybe would ask a question here and here and here, or say click here for this, whatever it is. And then this would be your answer or your statement or whatever. All right. Then it says in the second column, add a Bootstrap list group. All right. So again, you want to go back to here and you want to find list group. Here is an example. All right. What is this? I will tell you, this is a great exercise just because of the fact that in the AWD1115 class right now, students are working on a test. And I wouldn't normally do this, but I'm going to show you something from their test. All right. And there's a reason I'm doing this. So just bear with me if you would for a second. Now, I don't expect you to understand what any of this stuff means. That's not what's important, but I'm going to bring it up. I'm just going to run it right away. And lo and behold, what do you have there? There's a Bootstrap list group. And if I click on it, what does it bring up? Another Bootstrap list group. All right. So these are all the products in this company. And then I can just give just the bicycles, just the clothing, just the components, etc. All right. So if I go to bikes and I click here, it's a little bit different. All right. But these are a lot of the same Bootstrap types of things that you're learning about now that you're actually going to be using in later classes. So again, follow all of the requirements here. When I grade this, how am I going to grade it? I'm going to look at, did you meet the requirements? That's the biggest thing. But I'm also going to look at, if you did a site on a product, are the colors nice? All right. Did you maybe add your own font from Google Fonts? All right. Do you have to do that? If it doesn't say it on here, no. But again, the idea behind both of these projects, the single page and the multiple page or two multiple pages, is that you will think enough of this that you will want to put both of those out there on your electronic portfolio at the end of the semester. So follow these requirements that are here and follow these requirements that are here. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to today, unlike yesterday, I'm going to do a lot of copy and pasting so you don't have to watch me type. But I want to show you one of the problems that I had today. All right. I built this yesterday from scratch, but it's not perfect. There's a problem with it. All right. I was born in Wisconsin, always have been a Green Bay Packer fan. All right. Hold that against me, or maybe you like them too. It doesn't matter. But this is supposed to be right here. This is supposed to be a slider. But for whatever reason, when I click the other buttons, it doesn't go anywhere. And I don't know why. I Googled it. I used the same thing that I did for the example I showed you yesterday, but it's not working. And I don't know why. All right. And then you come down here. These are the three coaches that the Packers have had that have won Super Bowls. And if you notice on here, I've got to read more. I just to show you one of them. If I click on them, it does bring up in another screen the Wikipedia page for that coach. So Lombardi, Holmgren, McCarthy. All right. Then I've got some famous games in Packers history. Originally, I was going to put this in and try to put in some video. Couldn't find good video, so I just put in pictures. So these are three of their more iconic games. And then here's some famous Packer quarterbacks through the years. I set the thing up there to rounded. The idea was this would look a little bit at least like a football. All right. And I didn't even put in a form. All right. It's just here is the footer. Now, I didn't realize this till right before class, but if you do shrink it down, all right, it shrinks. There is absolutely zero CSS in here. And you'll notice it's not perfect. There are things I'd like to change, but it still looks okay, even on this screen. The only thing, and I didn't realize it till honestly right before class, is my hamburger menu doesn't work. So I'm going to have to go look at that. All right. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you all of the code that is in here for this page. Then when we get done, and I think I showed you this yesterday, I'm going to go out and show you all of the code for the page for Alfano's Pizza. And I think rather than even building it, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring up the end product and I'm going to show you the code. All right. So again, if you look in here, here's my CSS. The size is 0K. There's nothing in it. All right. I took my images and I put them in a folder called media, but then I've got images and I've got video. I didn't end up using any video, so I can actually remove this. But under my images, I broke it up. So I call this big games. And those were the 3 pictures of big games right there. I had another folder that I called coaches, and that's each one of the coaches. All right. And I had another one that's called QBs, and those are the 4 quarterback pictures. All right. And then finally, I had one last one that's called slider picks. And these are the pictures that should be showing in that slider. You saw that first one. That one is showing, but the other 2, for whatever reason, are not showing. One of them was supposed to be there, a picture of Lambeau Field, and the other one was supposed to be the Packer logo. Now, one thing that I have found when you're working with this, okay, I went out and researched this, okay, and I even, for the first time yesterday, was trying to use some AI tools. And what I mean is this: if you look right here, because I want to show you this, it's a fairly important topic. If I bring this particular file up and I bring it up and I'm going to open it in Paint, okay? All right, so you'll notice you can see it here. If I click on resize and I click on pixels, it says right now the size of this is 615 pixels um, wide and 416 pixels high. Let's say I wanted to double that. So I could come in here and literally type in 1230 and it automatically updates the other one. But notice when I do this, you may or may not be able to tell from your homes, but it's starting to have a grainy kind of look to it. In other words, it doesn't look nearly as in focus, so to speak, as it did when we came down and we had this at 615. And the reason for that is with most image editors that you use, it's fairly easy to go from a bigger size to a smaller size and not use or not lose rather any quality. It's much harder to go from a smaller size to a larger size and keep that quality. I'm not saying it can't be done. I went out yesterday and Googled, and a couple of the things that they showed me were they said these were artificial intelligence things. And I tried using them. I didn't think they looked any better than it did when I tried to just manually go in here and do it like this. All right. All right. So let me just show you the code that's in here. I'm not going to save that. So again, I'm just going to bring the whole thing up right here. And it's about the size of what I showed you yesterday. All right. Not much difference in size. Now, I was looking at this. I really didn't use any Bootstrap icons, so I could get rid of that if I wanted to. But one thing that you should be doing when you start, we talked about this before, all right? When you start these the way you typically have been starting them. And what I mean is create a folder, bring that folder up in Visual Studio Code. In that folder, create an index.html. In the index.html, do your exclamation point and tab, which will build your framework. All right. After you've come in and you've built your framework, okay, then go in and start taking a look in here and go back to the docs. And like we said, after you do your framework, you'll want to add these 2 links. And I showed you yesterday, there are plenty of different ways that we can do this. I don't want to waste my time or your time, going over all of those. I think the easiest way to use this one is to just grab this and put it in as a link tag. I think the easiest way is to use this one and to bring that in, and that has to go inside of a script tag. All right, and again, we've talked about this already. So here it is in the link tag right there. All right, I grabbed it from the CDN. but again, you don't have to. And then with the other one, and I'm looking right now, and I'm looking for my JS. Well, maybe that's part of the reason I had a problem with this. Let's do this. Let's grab, in fact, just to show you that this isn't going to change any, I'm going to remove this link tag right here. I'm going to remove this link tag because again, I don't have any Bootstrap icons in here, so I'm removing that. All right, so I've got my thing in here. Now I'm going to come in and add these two lines right here. All right. So I can type in link, hit tab. Should have been able to hit tab, but it didn't like it. All right, fine. Rel equals style sheet. All right. And I'm going to put this on a new line just so you can read it. href equal, and that's the same thing I just typed, I just copied in. All right. And then, of course, I have to end this link like that. All right. Then I'm going to bring in the other tag from right here as well. Again, since it's a JavaScript tag, JavaScript tags don't go into links like CSS, they go into script tags. And you say source equal. And now in there, I'm going to put in that. All right. And then I end my script tag. All right. Now I'm looking at that, and it's because I spelled script wrong. There we go. That looks a lot better. All right. So that's what I've done. That's it. All right. Now it's possible that the reason some of my stuff wasn't working is I didn't have this in here. Now, if you put this in here, if you put this script tag in here, then what you should say here is either defer or you should say async. We mentioned this before. And what that means is I don't want to use anything that's in this file until my page has been completely loaded. It is possible if you put that script tag where mine is and you don't put async or defer in there, you might be trying to somehow be accessing things in your code before they've been loaded into memory, and that can just lead to problems. Your app could freeze or whatever. But just doing this right here, all right, in fact, I'm sorry, what I should be doing here is same thing I told you, and that is I should bring this up in code. All right, I had it up in another editor. But here it is. So this is, again, that index file, what I just showed you. So there's nothing new in here. So let's go in and bring this up in live server. Now, that was why my slider wasn't working. But you can see I used their AI package to try to make these bigger. I think the quality stinks. All right. You can read Lambeau Field. You can read the stuff that's in here, but I just don't like the way it looks as much. All right. There's nothing wrong with it. Let's see if my hamburger menu now works too. And it does. All right. So I can go home. I can jump to coaches. I can jump to moments, and I can jump to quarterbacks. All right. All right. So that was silly on my part, but so make sure you put in that script line that's right there. Also make sure that if you're, that when you use the bootstrap.min.css, put that line on any page that uses it above anything that has your own style sheet in it, right? Because you very well might override something that you get by default, all right? This is my title, nothing new in there. Okay, so that's the head section. Not really a whole heck of a lot in there. All right. But there shouldn't be in there. There should not now be anything in there that no one in this class says, "Well, I don't get that," because we've gone over that several times before. All right. What I did was I put every major thing that's in here in a section. So notice my nav bar and my showcase or carousel, I guess, I put those in the same section. Then where the coaches are, I put that in a section. Then where these, moments in their history, I put that in a section. And then for the quarterbacks, I put that in a section. And the reason that I did that was that each one of these sections in here has an ID. All right. And those IDs are the same as these, except they're lowercase. So I've got an ID of home, an ID of coaches, an ID of moments, and an ID of quarterbacks. So I can immediately come in here and jump to any portion that's in here. That's why I did it that way. All right, this is very similar to something that we learned in the quote regular CSS HTML part of the course, unquote, where we went in and we jumped to different portions on the same page. All right. So again, this is my home. So this is the nav bar. And I'm not going to lie to you. Literally, I took all of the code that you see between here and here. All right. And I grabbed that code from right here and I went down to to components, and I went to carousel, and I like the one that has the indicators on it. So you can go this way or you can go this way. And I grabbed every bit of this code. I'm going to suggest don't highlight it like this. You can, but I'm going to suggest that rather than doing that, click right here on the little clipboard and it'll copy it for you. So after I copied that over to the clipboard, I went in and manually made my changes. What changes did I make? All right, well, I put an H1 in there with my brand, and it just had the word Green Bay Packers. I could have put a logo in there. I could have put anything in there I wanted to. Now that I look at this, okay, what I probably should have done is also made that a hyperlink. All right, that would go back to the home page from anywhere. But since it's a one-page site, I didn't do it. All right. So this is that H1, the brand. And notice I use text warning on there. All right. Why? Because what text warning did in this example is it made it this kind of the Packers gold. This is as close as I could get by using the built-in colors, success and warning. All right, I left these alone. When I tried to play with them, they came out, the colors were kind of goofy, so I just kept them up there as white. All right, but I changed nothing. I did come in here and do this, and I found this little thing that was right here. The style equal margin right, 5 pixels important. When this wouldn't work at first, I found that as somebody said, oh, you should always put that in whenever you got your whenever you're setting up your nav bar. It didn't seem to do a lot one way or the other. All right. One key thing in here. Notice where it says data BS target. All right. This should make sense to everybody watching this recording. And that is right there. That's an ID called nav bar supported content. That must be the same name as the name you see right here. These two must be exactly the same. Everything, caseness, spelling, etc. must be the same. All right. And then when we come in here, this is, as it says, this is the navigation bar right here. All right. And you'll notice the UL, the class is nav bar nav, and MS Auto, which pushes the navigation bar off to the right. every thing that's in here in a nav bar nav is a nav item. All right. And I made all of these nav links. All right. They literally are hyperlinked to go to different places in the document. So if I'm on the home page and I click coaches, boom, it should go down to the ID of coaches, moments, QBs, etc. All right. And again, that's everything as far as the navigation bar. Now, you didn't have to do this, but I decided to take that picture on the top, my carousel, and take that literally and put it in put it in my home section as well. I could have made it another section. All right. The way I would have done that is I would have ended my section here for the nav bar and started a new section right after it for the carousel. All right, you can see I don't have a boatload of documentation in here. When I do have a new section, I did put a line break typically, and I put a little comment in there. This, again, everything that you see from line 48 through line 73, that's taken directly from getbootstrap.com out again on the in their documentation. All right, under the components, I found carousel. Now, of course, I had to change that because by default, it doesn't give you any actual images. So there was my first image, there is my second image, and there is my third image. But other than that, I don't believe I changed a lick in here. Nothing. All right. So that is that one. All right. And it even sets it up again for the previous and the next. So you've already seen this. All right. Now it's kind of hard to tell. You can see this to go now from, well, now it's not showing it again, but to go from one page to the other. All right. Like this. What's a little harder to see with the coloring I have is there's something up here that when you put your mouse up here, there actually is a little, there it is. All right. The little arrow, it's a chevron is what it's called. And that allows me to go forward. And there's another chevron that's up here that allows me to go backwards. All right. And again, those are just the indicators here, here, and down here. There's different ways you can do this. You can set it up for a slideshow so that automatically after, let's say, 5 seconds, it moves from one slide to the other. I would recommend you do not do that. What you're going to find is if younger people look at a slideshow, they want the slides to go faster. If older, more mature people look at a slideshow, by and large, they want it to go slower, especially if the slides that are on there have text. All right, because typically people who are older, more mature want to read the text. Now, again, just so you see, this is the one I used with indicators. But if I'd have gone down to the next one, that would have also allowed me to put a caption in there. So again, it's what you want to put in here. All right. It's sometimes when you show a picture, it's fairly self-explanatory. Sometimes it's not. All right. So this works exactly like the other one did, except as it says, all right, you can now put labels in there and you can be as specific as you want to or need to be. All right. Oops. Let's see. Well, that's the one we did the other day. Okay. All right. So then I went down to this coaches section. One thing that you'll notice in here, oh, and I didn't make that a section. Oh, that's on me. I should have. So there it starts. And there it ends. All right. It should look exactly the same when I bring it up in just a second. All right. You'll notice I did a lot of stuff in here. For instance, I combined padding and top margin. When I did not do that, when I did not do that, and some people would say what I'm about to tell you is kind of a hack, but when I did not do that and I brought this up and I went, for example, to coaches, this didn't show. In other words, instead of showing it when you click coaches, it went up to there. It didn't show my heading. But by adding some and playing in there with some margin and padding, I was able to get that back. All right. I mean, technically, this is all together. So when you go to moments, that's what should be on top. When you go to coaches, that should be on top. When you go to quarterbacks, that should be on top. All right. So again, I had to put a little bit of stuff in there. All right. To make it look the way that I wanted it to look. All right. And again, notice I used text success. So that's green for my H2. All right. Now, what does this say? Div class equal col medium. So that says 768 pixels and above. All right. I want it to show like this, which means that if it's less than 768 pixels, rather than showing it like this, where again, what do we have in here? We've got three coaches, Vince Lombardi, Mike Holmgren, and Mike McCarthy. So again, you've already seen this. But if I bring this up, there they are as three. When it reaches a certain point in here, all right, so when it actually reaches 768 pixels, wherever that is, there, nope, not there, there. So what does that mean? That means I didn't do a heck of a lot in here as far as where I had it break on breakpoints. All right. Maybe this is not where I really wanted it to break. Maybe I wanted it to say that when it reached X number, that I wanted it to go to 1. All right. I don't like it when you've only got 3 things like this. I don't like it when you take that, you change it so there's 2 on 1 and then 1 below it. I just don't like the way that looks. I'd rather have all 3 together, or I'd rather have them stacked. Now that's just me. Not everybody is going to agree with that. And some people, again, if you had somebody who asked you to do something a certain way, all right, that's what you should do then. All right. So all 3 of these were set up the same. So I'm going to highlight from right here to right here. All right. And let's look at that, because if we look at one, the only thing that's different in the other 2 are the picture and the statistics that are down below that. All right. So what are we saying? Again, break it medium. All right. The background should be secondary. All right. And the text should be light. What does that mean? Secondary, all right, is kind of a grayish sort of background, and light is literally that. These are cards. All right. The body of the card, as it says, I wanted the text to center. Notice after that, and I mentioned this before, this is the image. I actually gave it an H1 class. It probably would have worked fine without that, with some margin bottom. And remember, we looked at this yesterday. And as far as what's there in that margin bottom, that's right there. All right. You can typically go from MB0 to MB5. The bigger the number, all right, the bigger the number after MB or PB, for example, this is margin bottom. So you can do a P for padding, or an M for margin all over, an MB for margin bottom, an MT for margin top, an MS, I believe, and that's margin left, it's margin start, and an ME for margin end, which is margin right. And padding is the same way, but you just replace the M with a P. All right. Now, if you look in here, very important, all right, with that image fluid, because what that says basically is to scale the image based upon where it is and what other requirements you have. So if I do this, I'm going to grab this. I wouldn't normally do it, but I am going to. I'm going to remove this. All right. And I'm going to save this. And now I'm going to go back to the page. All right. Just refresh to make sure it's refreshed. And in this case, well, I'm surprised, but it does look the same. Now, one thing that happened when I did this originally is these were a lot bigger. All right. I've actually scaled these down from the size they were originally. All right. And if you remember yesterday, when I showed you the thing that had the rank and AWD team in it, and they had Evan on the left, me in the center, and Doug on the right. When I didn't have the image fluid in there, Evan's picture was okay, Doug's picture was okay, but Jeff's in the middle was real huge. All right. So make sure that when you come in there, even if you don't think you need it, put that class equal image fluid. All right. All right. But the rest of the stuff that's in there, so this was just the text that came after it. And then I just put what? An anchor tag. All right. And you'll notice with that anchor tag, it's styled like a button because the class is button. BTN success, that's that green. Text warning, supposed to be orange, but it comes out yellow with a green background. And this said literally to go out to the Wikipedia page for this coach and style this button. Probably should be moved over here, but it doesn't really matter. All right. And put read more after it. Okay. So again, that made this right here. All right. You'll also notice again, here the background is black. All right. Here the background is gray, and here it's black. These are all things. This is, I'm not, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is a beautiful site. I'm not saying this is a beautiful page. I think it's acceptable for what I wanted to show you. But one of the things that differentiates a web developer from a web designer is a developer can do exactly what I've done here. A designer can take this and make it look unbelievably attractive. If you work at a company and you have very few people working there, you might wear a lot of hats. You might be both the web developer and the web designer. On the other hand, if you work for a company like Amazon, all right, you might have a web development department and a web design department. It just depends on the size of the company, who they employ, how they employ them, etc. So that's the three coaches. And again, you can see that got a little bit goofed up. There is a setting in here, and I don't remember where it is, but there is a setting in here. So if I go down to here, let's see, down to the bottom for settings, I think this is it. Somewhere in here, it'll say settings. And there are a bunch of settings that are in here. And for instance, under text editor, I think it's text editor, notice what you can do. All right. You can tell it to automatically close things for you, etc. But there is something in one of these that when you save, code actions on save, I don't remember where it is, and I'm sorry, but there's something in here where you can tell it to basically take everything that's in there and line it up whenever you save. All right, I'm looking for it in here. I'm not seeing it. And this is going to be pretty big. It's alphabetic. So let me go down to save. No, they just have save before start. I don't remember offhand where it is, but again, it might be worth, and I can search this. Format on save, something like that. Editor, format on save mode. Format a file on save. A formatter must be available. The file must not be saved after the delay. And I think if I click right here, just doing that, and when I go back to here, when I go back to my file now, oops, all right, and I close that, okay, and I do a file, save. No, yeah, see how it took all these, now it matched them all up. All right, looks a lot nicer now. What's nice about that is it automatically lines stuff up. I don't like how it does this, but I'll live with that because it looks a lot better now than it did. All right, and again, the way that I did that was I went down to the bottom and I went to settings, and then I just searched settings for format on save. There it is, and I checked it. All right. Again, you don't have to do that either. It's just something you might want to consider. And then we came in here to these moments that you see right here. All right. And as it says, so again, notice I this one, because it's got a dark background. All right. I gave the text white and I centered it and bolded it. And again, put some top margin in there, put some padding in there as well. All right. As I mentioned to you, part of the way that your assignments that we went over before, and we'll look at them again in a little bit, but part of the way those will be graded is how professional do they look. Now, what many of you did on the test that you took last week is your page didn't look bad at all right, when it was on a regular screen, but when you made it smaller and set it up so you'd see how it would look for a phone setting or whatever, either you didn't change anything or you didn't follow the requirements. That's why, again, on Monday of next week, I will go over just an example of, what you could have done. All right. So again, each one of these is set up the same in here. What do I mean? Well, if you notice, I've got a row, and then in the row, I've got a column. And if you'll notice, if you look, I'm saying again, if it's a medium size or above, I want this to take up half the screen. And then this will take up the other half. And all of them are set up like this. The only difference between the three, if you didn't notice it already, is here I've got the writing and then the picture. Here's the picture, then the writing, and here's the writing and then the picture again. Did I have to do that? No, they could have all been the same. I could have reversed the order and put the picture writing, writing picture and picture writing too. I mean, it's always up to me as far as what I wanted to do right here. All right. And literally, when I got this stuff, I like it. It's not a bad idea when you're developing something, all right, to use lipsum text. All right. So I could have done this with lipsum text, but was just as easy for me to go out onto the internet and find text. Now that I look at it here too, when you look here, notice these things, those really should all be changed so that every one of those is removed and they look like this. And the reason I'm telling you that is, well, I mean, you put them in there and it looks like it worked, and it probably did. All right. But it is possible that later on, this could lead to some kind of a problem. It shouldn't, but that doesn't mean it won't. And you'll notice with each one of these, in fact, I don't want that, playing around with different fonts. All right. So this one has just bold H2. This is a lead paragraph. All right. It's italicized and it's bolded. Then underneath that, taking up the other 6 is just the image. I did nothing special for the image. Gave it a source tag, gave it an alt tag, and that's it. And then the next one is going to look the same as this one did. All right. Like I said, it's going to look the same. There's no difference, except that the text is different and the picture is different. And in this case, with the second one, the picture is first, and then you've got the text. All right. And then again, for the last one, the same kind of thing. You've got the text first and then the picture. All right. So that's those. We go down now and look at the quarterbacks. Again, there is nothing wrong with repetition and using a similar type of pattern. So again, you'll notice I used again some padding and some margin top in there. And for each one of these, again, notice that it's set to column MD3, which is again 768 pixels and above. This will be 4 across because there were 4 quarterbacks. 767 and less, it's going to stack. All right. So these are some of their quarterbacks over the years. And again, I made them all cards. And with the card, okay, class equal card, card body, card title. All right. And I could have said card text here. I thought I did, but I didn't. All right. And the next one is set up the same way. And the next one is set up the same way. And the last one is set up the same way. All right. And with the footer, there's almost nothing in here. I originally had a form in here. I didn't like the way that it looked. All right. So, I mean, if you want to go back and later take a look at this, let's say that you're like, geez, I wonder how he did this thing in here. And if I showed you a certain thing and you liked it, all right, go back and do a screenshot of this. What I did in the past was we did one of these as a class. All right. And not everybody did it, I could tell. But then I ended up putting it out there, and I put it out in a GitHub repo. And I'm not exaggerating. I had 10 people in the class, and 9 of the 10 people, they used the exact same patterns and everything that I had used. So basically, all they did was they swapped out what I had put in there for images and the like and text, and they put in their own stuff. And you might argue and say, well, there's nothing wrong with that. But the idea is this is supposed to be your own, an extension of you, so to speak. All right. And that's why I've decided to do it this way. And again, as I mentioned, I am not going to be brazen enough to say this is fantastic. I wish I could have found a way to make that look better. All right. And later I even thought maybe what I should have done is just cut down the size of this. It probably would look better like that. But I like the way that it took up the whole screen. I love that picture. All right. Down here, again, I probably could have made this smaller. All right. This I thought came out pretty well. Same with this and same with this. You probably have your own feelings on, I mean, I could have taken this title right here and centered it. You'll notice in here, there's nothing special done with this. I could have centered this text. I could have justified that text, left or right, or fully justified it. All right, it's left justified, of course, by default. I could have taken this and just as well, again, centered that. I just played around with it a little bit and I liked the way that it looked. All right, and that's why I did it the way that I did it. All right, same thing with these quarterbacks. Originally, I didn't have that. And I should mention to you, because it's a little bit different, how did I get that look in there on those quarterbacks? All right. And the answer is, if we go down here and find the quarterbacks, you'll notice that with each one of them on the image, all right, we've got rounded circle. So we've actually got 2 things in here: image fluid and rounded circle. And the rounded circle, if I remove that, let's just remove this for Bart Starr here. And you'll notice the difference. Maybe you like that better. All right. Or maybe if you're doing this for somebody, they like it better. So we don't have the rounded look. All right. Like I said, to me, it kind of reminded me more of a football itself, the way he's even holding the football there. All right. The other thing I was going to tell you about that, let me put that back again. All right. And it's back. The other thing, and again, is this that big a thing? No. But I went out and I started looking, and somehow I was lucky enough that I got pushed to a site that was Getty Images, Getty Images, and the quality was really good as far as these pictures. That's why I really liked the quality. Again, I made the background success, which is kind of the Packer green, and I made this is warning. All right. And that warning that's in here, that came out as kind of the gold. All right. This is an unbelievably simplistic um, footer. I didn't put really anything in it. I don't know why I put 2022 in instead of 2023, but I did. So we changed that. There we go. All right. And again, as I've already shown you, I can jump up now. I can go down to the bottom. I can go here. I can go here. It isn't fantastic. All right. But it's not bad. And especially not bad because, again, when I make this real small, there is no CSS in here whatsoever. So how would I change this? I would probably have put some padding in here. All right. So that would, maybe I would want that, and I probably almost for sure would put some top padding in here. All right. Maybe there's too much padding in here and in here. So I could get rid of that. These could have been made smaller. They don't look bad at all the way they are, but they could have been made smaller. One thing I really should have done is added a little bit of margin or padding in here in between these. I think that would have looked nicer, a little more professional. And in here, again, maybe play with the width and put some padding in there or some margin in there. All right, because this is kind of pushed. And when you look right here, this picture, okay, it's kind of, when we look at it here, some of it really isn't showing. So I should have probably done some work on that too. This picture came out fine. That one didn't, but that one did. All right. And that one would need some work too. All right. These, again, I might have decided to make a little smaller. Maybe the text is a little too big, etc. All right. So that's really what I had to show you on this one. So give me about 2 more minutes and we'll take our first break. All right. So again, if you came in late and didn't hear that, I went over these two things. You have two different, and they're worth 200 points. I didn't set this up. This was set up by my superiors in at the St. Louis campus. You're having two HOTS in here. The first one is for a 3-page website for a fictional business. All right. So you can sell whatever it is you want to sell. You will have a home page that must meet these requirements right here. So 15 and 12 is 27 and 12 is 39. And 5, it looks like, is 44. All right. So here's your front page. So you got, I think it says to make this into a Jumbotron. If you don't want to set this up the way it's shown here, in other words, if you want this company name and then you want you don't want the nav bar under it, you want it off to the right, you can do that. You don't have to put this around the nav bar. I want this to look as professional as you have the time to make it look. All right, so that's the home page. Then you've got a products page where you're actually trying to sell your product. All right, and this is in here, this is a Jumbotron, and it looks like we've got some pictures here. And as I mentioned earlier, this seems ideally suited for setting this up as cards. All right. Now, if you decide, so if you notice here, you'll notice that this whole thing up here is light and this is dark. If you'd rather change it, make this light and this light, or make them both dark, that's up to you. There should be some consistent look and feel to them, in my opinion. All right. So for the products page, again, Here's what we have: 5, 12 is 17, 29, looks like 34 points here. And then finally, you've got your last page, which is the team page. 5, 12, 17, 5 is 22 if I added right. And again, it looks like this is set up as cards. All right, so you can set this up any kind of way you want. Now, again, these are your requirements. As I mentioned earlier in class, I'm not saying these are your requirements. Do you like them? These are your requirements. All right. So this will be a 3-page site. The other one, it's up to you. You can make this a multi-page site, or you can do everything on one page. All right. With this one, it says create a website about your favorite food or snack. All right. It says content can be placeholder text or images. So in other words, you can use Lipsum in there if you want. Again, I wouldn't recommend doing that because, as I mentioned earlier, my hope is that what all of you will do is you'll think enough of these two projects that they will be included in your electronic portfolio. All right. You never know when you go to interview for a place what people are going to look at. I'll always remember that years ago, I used to have this class on my resume. I had on there the classes I took. For some reason, I put this one class down. For the life of me, I couldn't remember the name of it now, but it was something like systems analysis and design for engineers or something like that. And why it would put it in there, I don't remember. But the guy who was interviewing me said, "Oh, I took a class just like that. What did you think of it?" And I immediately froze. I was starting to think in the back of my mind, what was that again? All right. So if when you put something down, it should be professional, it should be a reflection of you, and it should be something that you're able to justify or talk about as far as what you did. All right. Okay, it's 9:07. Let's come back at 9:20, and I'm going to show you the other site that I made, that Alfano's Pizza. We're going to do the same thing. Probably be done by 10 o'clock today. And again, you'll have the rest of today, all of Wednesday, all of Thursday, all of Friday to work on this. All right. I believe that they're doing it the same way at the St. Louis campus. Could I be wrong? Of course I can, but I think that they are. All right. So again, I'll see you back here at 9, whatever we said, 9:20 in 12 minutes. All right, it is 9:20, so I'm going to continue on. I don't know, I'm just looking in here, and I had mentioned this in another class, and that is that one day when I was driving down the road, going from the Rankin-Wentzville campus into Wentzville itself, I saw this little strip mall, and in the strip mall was a pizza place that said Alfano's Pizza. I had never heard of it before. I've never stopped in there, but I thought I'd build a simple little site based off of it. And I looked online and I found this. So it says Alfano, so that must be what it looks like. I think that's it with the hours, etc. But I don't think they actually have a site. Now I could be wrong, but they're in there on Yelp and a bunch of other places. But I'm not sure if they actually have a site itself. They have a Facebook presence, etc. The only reason I'm mentioning that to you is sometimes when people come up to me and they're like, I'd like to make some money or I'd like some more experience, you could go in and if you know of a place that does not have a website, you could try to build one for them. All right. Now, remember, there's a lot of things that go on with that, such as are you going to do it for free? Are you going to maintain it, etc. All right. Are you going to actually set it up for them with some kind of an ISP where they can actually put it online? But it's just something that you might want to think about or not. All right. So based off of that, like I said, this is the one that I ended up building. And again, there's virtually no CSS in here, but you'll notice as it shrinks down. All right. So here's the slideshow. Not great, but it's okay. Here's the stuff about, the different things that are made here. And I don't know if they really are. Like I said, I just made it all up. And then there's a map and a newsletter. All right, so this is the kind of thing that you might want to do for your 3-page site. All right. And I'm not saying that you should set it up like this. You should set it up so, again, it's an extension of you. All right. So there's a lot of different ways that this can be done. You'll notice on here, too, that this stretches all the way across. All right. If you look, there's 2 different kinds of containers that you can create in Bootstrap. All right, so I don't know where the heck containers are. There they are. And if we look and they say how they work, etc., there is a container and a container fluid. All right, so here, if we look here, if you put the container fluid in there, as it says, it takes up the entire width of your viewport area. All right, I thought that was what I did in here. I haven't even looked at this one in a while, but I'll bring it up. And let's bring it up in our editor of choice, which again is Visual Studio Code. Let me first close the one we were working with. I guess it is closed. Good. All right. And I'm going to just show you the code that's in here. So starting with the index. All right. Now, some of it might look a little bit different. Like I said, but it will virtually be the same as the one I just showed you for Green Bay, except again, it is a multi-page site. All right. So there's the carousel. Okay, there's the menu section, etc. And a lot of this I just played with. All right. I don't like the fact now looking back at this, I would, even though I used percentages, this could have been done much better. All right. Now you'll notice it says rounded. So rounded must work as well as rounded circle. Because if you take a look at it, no, they are not rounded. So let's see if I go back and make that rounded. Oops. Circle. And that's the calzone. All right, still doesn't look like it's rounded. There it is. So I would have to have done that instead of what I did. So I should go back and change all those to rounded circle. Again, draw your own determinations as to whether that looks better or worse. All right. Because there's a lot of different things we can do in here. All right. So again, we've got a slideshow. All right. Followed by we've got something that is set up by default that each one of these is taking up basically a third of the screen. All right. And when we collapse it down, it goes down to where they're stacked. Okay. And then we've got this map that's in here. And it actually is a map, and it actually has the address in it. All right. This stuff was just junk I made up. So weekly newsletter should have been formatted somewhat. You can see it was done last year. And a very crude little form in here to sign up. All right. But it doesn't really do anything either. All right. And that's that page. So there you can look in here and you notice we have both for our brand. We've got both an image and we've got text. And again, with the image, you'll notice it's clickable and it sends me right back. All right. And again, home, there's the about, there's the contact, and there's home. So this was a very simple little page. All right. This is just the home page. I should say simple, 3 pages. This was the about page. And that was the contact page. So you see there's a lot in common. Now, what I want to make sure all of you understand is the following. I'll go over this code in just a minute. All right. But your best place to go when you're looking for how to do this, your number one place to go should be getbootstrap.com. It has a lot of code in there already that you can just borrow, all right, and customize to your satisfaction. In addition, and some of this stuff I've already shown you, but I'm going to show it to you again, and that is, all right, this is that crash course by Brad Traversy. What he builds in here, I'm going to just go a little forward. Let's see, where is it? Here, he builds that. Okay, and it doesn't look like much, but it's a simple site. All right. He talks about where you can get another place where you can get images. If you go down, you'll notice he's got 3 cards. He's got a form in here for a newsletter. All right, etc. He's got this, I don't know why he's got that there, but that will go to a hamburger menu. All right, he's got a brand right there. And if we keep going, I think we go down to where he's got it actually finished here. All right, do that. All right, he goes out and he uses some font awesome icons, etc. All right, but he's even got I think he gives you the code for it. All right. But again, I don't want you to sit and just copy his code. I don't really, truly, I don't believe you're learning by doing that. You may disagree with me. All right, so there's one place that you can go to look for this stuff. Now this is not small. This is a full course for beginners from Free Code Camp, which is another terrific site. It is about 2.5 hours long. The Brad Traversy one is about 1 hour and 20 minutes long. All right. And we have to sit through this. Let's see. Okay, so that is, like I said, what's 2 hours and 45 minutes long. All right. Here's one. This is Kyle Cook, and this is Web Dev Simplified. This is 1 hour and 10 minutes long. I like Kyle's stuff. He typically brings up something and he just has a running example through his code. And again, quite often he will give you the code if you want it. All right. So you've got plenty of places that you can go to get information about, what it is you're supposed to be doing. But let's take a couple minutes and let's look at the code that is in here for the Alfano's pizza. I said we'll probably be done in 15 minutes or so. All right. So this was the home page right here. So again, in here, the only thing that's new is the fact that we're adding the bootstrap.min.css, and either you're going to add that JavaScript bundle file, or you're going to put that down at the bottom of your body section. All right, there's a minimum in here, real little bit of stuff with a carousel, just to put make, as it says, 100% with a width, the maximum height is 500 pixels, etc. Not much. But this, again, is virtually taken from the Get Bootstrap site. So again, notice in here, there's the brand. And for the brand, what did we do? We added an href so it would go back to the home page, and we made an image in there. Okay. Now, where it says Alfano's Pizza, I could have done the same thing in there and put an href in here as well. Right now, it goes back to the homepage if you click on the logo, but it doesn't if you click on Alfano's Pizza. But I don't know why if we just did this. Oops, I'll do that. We couldn't do something like that. I don't know why it's looking funky here. Doesn't mean anything on its own. Yeah, it must be paired. There's the beginning. And there's the end. It is paired. I don't know. But I'm just saying we could change that if we wanted to. Okay. The button, this is all the same stuff that we used before. Okay. I mentioned that to you before, that whatever you call this with the ID is what you have to call it up here. You can call it anything you want to call it. All right, that supported content nav bar is one that you get by default, and that's what I ended up using on the other sites. All right, so again, here is my navigation area. You've already seen this. All right, and again, notice we're working with color in here, etc. All right, very simplistically done. Here's the carousel, which again was taken right from getbootstrap.com. I think this is me speaking, that if you're going to set up a carousel, that at a minimum, you should have 3 pictures in it. Not everybody agrees with that. Notice in here too, since I got these pictures from Unsplash, I did give the credit. Pizza photo by so-and-so, pizza photo by, and that's what they ask you to do. We talked about this before. You don't have to do that. I think it's just a nice idea. All right. If you want people to continue to provide things for free, when they ask you to do something in return, I think it's a nice idea to do it. All right. That's just me speaking. All right. And their carousel, and then start our menu. So this was just the thing where I just came in here and put the rounded circle in. All right. Now, when you look at this, all right, I did this before we talked about this example, before we talked about cards. Would have been simpler to do it using cards, would have probably looked a little bit nicer to do it using cards. All right. but you should go in and take advantage of all of the stuff that is available to you in Get Bootstrap. All right. Plus, and we talked a little bit about this before, but if I go out as an example right here, if I go out to bootswatch.com, all right, as it says, these are themes that you can use for Bootstrap. You don't have to do this. You're not told to do this. And you'll have to do a little reading. All right. But the point is, if you want it to look a little bit more professional, here's one place you can go. There's other sites too. Okay? Bootswatch is what I just shown you. Notice there's Start Bootstrap rather, 100 free Bootstrap 5 templates. All right. That can get you going too. Do you have to use those? No. But again, I'm showing you some alternatives if you have any desire to do so. All right. All right. So again, you will be setting up something similar to this. It won't be identical. All right. The other thing that you can do, and again, don't take this the wrong way, but there are a lot of Bootstrap sites out there on the internet. You could take a look at one. I would never say don't grab their code, copy it, and no, don't do that. But again, use it as a template for you. Somebody does something you think is cool, see if you can do it, but do it in your own way. All right, more than anything else. All right, not really a lot of new stuff in here. Then we had that. This was the map. All right, I don't think you're asked to do that in your maps, but Google Maps is available. There's other things that you can use. Plus, now this is done with an iframe. And if you decide for your product, whatever your product is, we talked about this before, but I'm trying to be complete here. So if you go in here and you decide that you want to go and take, let's say, this thing with Trump in here. Let's just say you wanted to take that and you wanted to put it, this particular thing in here, you wanted to go and add this to your page for whatever reason. All right. Then you can go out and you can go to share and you can go to embed and it'll show you the iframe. All right. So again, if I grabbed all that, all I did was copy it. All right. And I'm going to go back out here, close this. And down at the bottom of my page, I'm going to put it even below my footer so I can get rid of it. All right. But down here, way at the bottom, I'm going to paste it in. All right. I'm not going to change anything. I'm not going to do any work as far as prettying it up or anything else. And I open this with live server. Now you're going to notice that down at the bottom, there it is. And it works, right? So if you decide you want to try to incorporate some kind of a video, that is a way you can do it. In fact, that is the easiest way that you can do it. It does give you a default size, 560 by 315, but I think you can change these. So if I made it, for example, I'll make it 1.5 times what it is. So let's see, it'll be like about 840. And then that would be at what, like 472 or something like that. I think that it'll scale then. Yeah, it did. But there is a thing on here too that allow full screen. And if you allow that, that's exactly what it'll do, is it'll allow you to put it in full screen if that's what you want to do. All right. Let me get rid of that. And then when you look down here, here is that popper. If you want to add that, you don't have to. But what popper does is it allows you to put a few different things in there, such as it allows you to put in pop-up windows. As I mentioned, it's kind of like what you get when you right mouse click. There's a pop-up. It also allows you to create modals. All right. Originally on the example for the Rankin AWD thing that we built the other day, that we rebuilt the other day, I put a modal in there. I removed it. Why? Just because it was about 200 lines of code, and I didn't know how long it would take to explain that. But again, you already know this, that you can go out here, and I don't know if it's a component or not. I thought it was, but let's find out. Modal. All right. And all a modal is it's something that stays on screen like this until you remove it. All right. So you can't have something pop up. Of course, you'd make your own title and your own text, and you might just have a close button there. It's also permissible to not have any buttons there and just have an X there and click and it closes that way. And here's the text for it. All right. So what I'm looking for really in here is in these two assignments is for you, number one, as we mentioned, to follow the steps. But number two, these should be an extension of you. All right. A lot of you have been doing that in the sites and on the HOTS so far. And some of you have had, like I said, with the last example that we did, had some problems with the last HOT getting things to work. All right. And to be honest, that might have been reflected in your grade. All right. Okay. It is like 9:42. That's all I can think of as far as telling you. So I will be online for the rest of the day today. All right. Until 4 o'clock. Tomorrow morning, you'll probably get a very simple email from me that reminds you that it's a lab day, and Wednesday and Thursday rather, and Friday. You're getting a lot of time to work on this. You're getting 3.5 class periods. So somewhere around, I don't know, 15 hours, 13 to 15 hours. So the quality should be good. All right. Between that and finishing up from chapters 11 through 18, those HOTS, and 11 to 14, the Halloween project. That's what you have. And again, I will go over on Monday, first thing. I don't like to ever say, here's the key to your test. No, this is the way I did it. Again, I'm not brazen enough to say that what I did is what you should do, but I will show you that on Monday. All right. As soon as we get done with that, we're going to jump right into the other book. And when we do that and we jump into the other book, all right, get rid of that. This is it here. Oh, there it is. It is Murex JavaScript and jQuery 4th edition. There are still a couple copies of both textbooks at the Rankin-Wentzville campus, 755 Parr Road. If you're interested in that, in getting a copy, they won't send them out. They're just not going to start a policy of sending things out to students. But if you say, well, geez, I want a book, and technically it was part of your tuition. If you are interested in that, you should be able to send an email to the counselor there, who's Patrick Glynn, PM Glynn at rankin.edu. All right. You can email him and say, hey, do you still have books? He can check for you, one or both those books, if you're interested. All right. He's the counselor there. Leah Story is the other one, but she travels between 3 or 4 different campuses, or 2 or 3 campuses. So she may or may not be there. And again, as far as this goes, if I go to read now, on Monday of next week, between Monday and Thursday of next week, we're going to go over the first 3 chapters. Right now, probably what I'm looking at is chapters 1, 2, and 3, then a test. 4 and 5, and then a test. 6 and 7, and then a test. 8, 9, 10, and 11, and then a test. Some of these, and then a test, and that'll be it. We will talk about this stuff, but you won't be tested on that. You won't be asked to do any um, labs or homework on that, or even written tests for 17, 18, and 19. The way that it is set up in our book, if you're not aware of this, is I believe that they, again, have it kind of set up where they have something that we could use for labs and something that we could do for homework. All right, let me double check that, but says case studies here. I don't know what that is. Or I don't know, probably won't do that one. But there's one that's called Extra, and there'll be a bunch of exercises. No, you won't be assigned every one of those. And there's another one called Short, I believe it is. And again, no, you won't be assigned all of those. What we will do, and I will make the determination, we will either do many of the shorts together as a class, and I'll assign the extras, or vice versa. All right. You will still be responsible for doing all of them. And this one you will. Okay. Because the only way to learn to program is to program. The only way to become a better programmer is to program. All right. That's really all that I had then for today. Again, it will be lab Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, on Sunday by midnight. The rest of the stuff for the HTML CSS book is due. And these two hands-on tests will be due. Any questions, email me, and if necessary, I can even set up a individual Teams meeting with you. All right. So with that, I will talk to you next on Monday. Have a good rest of the week. Thanks.